The sun rose slowly over the quiet neighborhood of Silver Pines. The streets were lined with tall trees whose leaves shimmered in the soft morning light. Birds chirped from the branches, and a light breeze carried the scent of freshly cut grass. It was a perfect day on the surface, but for Adam and his young son Leo, the morning brought a shadow that could not be ignored. Adam glanced out the window of his small home, watching the mail carrier leave a thick envelope on the porch. The envelope bore the emblem of the Silver Pines Homeowners Association. Adam felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He knew what it was before he even picked it up. The HOA had been strict lately, sending letters and notices about every minor violation. But this one felt different. Leo, a lively boy of 8, sat at the kitchen table, coloring a picture of a spaceship. He hummed a tune softly, unaware of the worry clouding his father's mind. Adam forced a smile as he ruffled Leo's hair. "Morning, buddy," he said, trying to sound cheerful. "Morning, Dad," Leo replied, showing him his drawing. "Look, the ship is going to explore a planet full of ice and fire." Adam knelt down beside him, studying the colorful creation. "It's amazing, Leo. You've got a real talent for imagining worlds," Leo beamed, proud of his father's words. But Adam's mind was elsewhere. He tore open the envelope carefully. The letter inside was thick, formal, and cold. It outlined an unpaid fine from the HOA, a sum Adam could not afford. The tone suggested that serious action would follow if the fine was not paid immediately. Adam felt a flash of anger. The fines were unfair. Small mistakes, small repairs that had taken months to fix, had somehow become massive debts. He had tried to explain, to negotiate, to reason with the board, but they had ignored him. Now, the letter hinted at consequences he could not yet imagine. As he read the notice, a thought crossed his mind, a fear he had hoped would never come true. The HOA was threatening to take Leo away. They claimed that Adam's failure to pay his fines made him unfit to care for his son. The words felt like a punch to the chest. Adam sat back, trying to breathe. "Dad?" Leo asked, looking up at him with innocent eyes. Adam swallowed his fear. "Nothing, buddy. Just some grown-up work stuff," he said, forcing a calm tone. He didn't want Leo to sense the danger, but Adam knew that this was only the beginning. The HOA had power in this neighborhood, and they were willing to use it. Adam felt a surge of determination. He would not let anyone take Leo. He would fight, not with anger, but with his mind, with careful planning, and with the cleverness that had always helped him navigate difficult situations. That evening, Adam sat at his small desk in the corner of the living room. He opened his laptop and began researching everything about the HOA's rules, legal regulations, and neighborhood bylaws. Every detail mattered. He read about previous disputes, court cases, and loopholes in the association's authority. He took careful notes, highlighting areas that could protect him and Leo. Hours passed. Leo had fallen asleep on the couch, a small blanket pulled over him, and Adam barely noticed the time. His eyes were dry from staring at the screen, but his mind was sharp. He knew the HOA believed their power was absolute, but Adam also knew that rules and logic could be stronger than intimidation. The next morning, Adam visited the community center where the HOA meetings were held. The building was pristine, with polished floors and walls decorated with awards and certificates. Adam walked through the lobby, feeling the weight of authority pressing down on him. At the reception desk, a woman with a cold smile looked up. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I'm here to speak to the board," Adam said calmly. "About the letter I received." The receptionist hesitated, but picked up the phone. Within minutes, Adam was led into a small conference room. The board members sat around a long table, each one polished and confident. At the head of the table sat the HOA president, a stern woman named Veronica. Her eyes were sharp and her posture rigid. "Adam," Veronica said, her voice smooth but firm, "we have been reviewing your case. Your unpaid fines are serious. We are considering measures to ensure compliance." Adam nodded, keeping his voice steady. "I understand, Veronica, but I would like to discuss alternative solutions. My goal is to resolve this without unnecessary conflict. I care deeply about my son, and I want to meet all reasonable requirements." The board members exchanged glances. Veronica leaned back, her fingers steepled. The rules are clear. The fines must be paid. Failure to comply affects the entire community. Adam felt a surge of patience and strategy. He had expected resistance, and he was ready. I am committed to the community as well. I want to find a solution that benefits everyone. Perhaps we can review the fines individually, and I can work to correct any misunderstandings. Veronica's expression remained unchanged. We will review your case, but the timeline is strict. Noncompliance has consequences. Adam left the building with a sense of cautious optimism. He had planted seeds of reason, and now he needed to prepare for what might come. The fight was not just legal, it would be a test of intelligence, perseverance, and creativity. At home, he began planning carefully. He created schedules, lists, and simulations of possible actions. He mapped the neighborhood, noting cameras, patrols, and HOA offices. He also researched technology, learning how systems could be monitored and analyzed. Adam realized that knowledge and preparation were his greatest weapons. Leo continued to play and explore, unaware of the storm that threatened their lives. Adam made sure to keep it that way. Every moment he could, he would create an environment of normalcy and joy for his son, shielding him from fear. As the days passed, Adam noticed strange behaviors from the HOA. Notices arrived more frequently. Board members were seen watching his house. The tension grew, but Adam's determination only strengthened. He was learning, adapting, and preparing. One evening, while reviewing the HOA's records online, Adam discovered a loophole. A previous dispute had set a precedent. Fines could not be enforced if certain procedural steps were ignored. He read through hundreds of pages of documents, legal notes, and case histories. Every detail mattered. Every mistake by the HOA could become his advantage. Adam smiled quietly to himself. He felt a spark of hope. The challenge was enormous, but he was not helpless. He was a father, and that role gave him strength, focus, and creativity beyond ordinary limits. In that moment, he realized something important. This was not just about fines or rules. It was about courage, intelligence, and the unbreakable bond between a parent and child. That night, Adam stayed up late. Leo slept soundly, the room bathed in soft moonlight. Adam imagined the future, planning every move carefully. He would not let fear control him. He would not let anyone take his son. With patience, strategy, and courage, he knew he could face the challenge and emerge stronger. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet, but Adam felt a growing energy within him, a force of determination and human ingenuity that no rules, no fines, and no authority could stop. He was ready for the fight ahead, but he also knew the key was to be smart, careful, and always one step ahead. And so, the story of Adam and Leo began not with violence or anger, but with courage, intelligence, and the unshakable power of love. The days ahead would test them in ways they could not yet imagine, but Adam was ready. The adventure had begun, and he would face it with a clear mind and an unbreakable heart. The sun rose again the next morning, casting long shadows across the neighborhood. Adam stood at the window, looking at the world with determination. He did not know what challenges awaited, but he knew one truth: no system, no rules, and no authority could break the bond between a father and his child. The morning sunlight poured into Adam's living room, painting the walls in warm gold. Leo sat at the kitchen table, eating his breakfast and chattering happily about his plans for the day. Adam listened, smiling faintly, though his mind was elsewhere. He knew the HOA would not wait long before taking action. Every minute counted. After breakfast, Adam pulled out his laptop and began reviewing the data he had collected. The loophole he had discovered in the HOA's records could protect him, but only if he acted carefully. He needed proof of their procedural errors, and he needed allies who understood rules, technology, and strategy. His first stop was the neighborhood library. The library had a small archive of local records, legal cases, and historical documents. Adam spent hours sifting through pages of HOA meeting minutes, neighborhood bylaws, and correspondence. Each document offered small pieces of information, clues about how the HOA had operated in the past. Some board members have made mistakes, forgotten deadlines, unsigned notices, and procedural errors that Adam could use to his advantage while scanning through the papers. Adam noticed a pattern. Certain HOA decisions had always favored residents who were persistent, careful, and well-informed. It was not about wealth or influence. It was about intelligence and strategy. Adam smiled quietly to himself. This was his world. This was the challenge he could win. Later that afternoon, Adam visited Mrs. Harlow, an elderly resident who had lived in Silver Pines for over 40 years. She was known for her sharp memory and knowledge of the HOA's history. Adam knocked on her door, and she welcomed him in with a warm smile. "Adam, how nice to see you," she said, her eyes twinkling. "I need your help, Mrs. Harlow," Adam said. "It's about the HOA and some fines I received. I need to understand how they operate and if there are any rules or mistakes I can use." Mrs. Harlow's expression grew serious. The HOA can be tricky. They think their power is absolute, but it's not. There are always rules, and there are always ways to defend yourself if you know them. You must be patient and smart. Never act in anger." Adam nodded. "That's exactly what I want to do. I want to protect my son and resolve this fairly. But I need guidance for the next several hours." Mrs. Harlow explained the HOA's procedures, highlighting moments when board members had overstepped their authority or forgotten essential steps. She also shared stories of residents who had successfully challenged the HOA by using logic, records, and public support. Adam took meticulous notes, every detail a potential advantage. As he walked home, Adam felt a renewed sense of confidence. He had allies, he had knowledge, and he had a plan forming in his mind. He needed to act carefully, but he also needed to show the HOA that he was prepared, smart, and unshakable. That evening, Adam began organizing the information he had collected. He created a chart of all the procedural errors, deadlines, and historical cases. He marked the most important details in bright colors, ensuring that nothing could be overlooked. Leo played nearby, building a model spaceship out of blocks. Adam glanced at him and smiled. Every effort he made was for Leo, for the future they would share. The next day, Adam attended a regular HOA meeting. He arrived early, dressed neatly, and carried a folder filled with organized notes. Board members began to gather, chatting among themselves. Veronica, the HOA president, noticed Adam immediately. Her expression was cool, almost dismissive, but Adam remained calm. He knew appearances mattered, and he intended to appear composed and confident. When the meeting began, Veronica addressed the room. "We have several items to discuss today, including ongoing fines and compliance issues. Let's proceed." Adam raised his hand politely. "Excuse me, Veronica. I would like to speak about my case before the discussion moves forward." A few board members glanced at him, some curious, others skeptical. Veronica's eyes narrowed slightly. "Very well, Adam, you have the floor." Adam opened his folder and spoke clearly. "I have reviewed the records, the bylaws, and previous cases. I have also examined your procedures carefully. I believe there have been mistakes in handling my fines, including missteps that are required by our rules. I am asking for a fair review and the chance to resolve this without penalties. That could affect my son." He presented his evidence systematically, citing documents, dates, and procedural requirements. Board members listened, some frowning, others whispering to each other. Veronica's face remained composed, but Adam could sense the tension in the room when he finished. He added, "I am committed to the community. I want to follow all rules and participate fully. I only ask that the process be fair and proper." There was a pause. Then Mrs. Harlow, who had attended the meeting quietly, spoke up. "Adam is correct. The rules require a review in this manner. Procedural errors cannot be ignored. I support a fair process." The board murmured among themselves. Veronica cleared her throat. "Very well, we will review your case. The fines will be temporarily suspended while we investigate the points you have raised." Adam nodded, keeping his composure. "Thank you. I appreciate the fair consideration." Walking home after the meeting, Adam felt a surge of relief. The first battle had been won, but the war was far from over. He knew the HOA would not give up easily, and he needed to prepare for the next challenges. Over the following days, Adam worked tirelessly. He continued researching rules, monitoring board actions, and gathering evidence. He discovered small inconsistencies in the records, letters that had never been sent, and meetings that had no official notes. Each discovery added to his growing advantage. Adam also reached out to other neighbors quietly. Some were hesitant, fearing retaliation, but others were willing to share their experiences and support him. Slowly, a network of residents formed, united by the desire for fairness and transparency. Adam realized that strength was not just in knowledge, but in community. Together, they could ensure that rules were applied correctly and justly. Leo continued his daily routines, unaware of the strategic planning happening around him. He went to school, played with friends, and shared stories of spaceships and planets with his father each evening. Adam cherished these moments, knowing they gave him strength and perspective. Protecting his son meant more than fighting fines. It meant maintaining hope, imagination, and happiness. One afternoon, Adam noticed a suspicious activity near his home. A new security camera had been installed by the HOA at the edge of the property line, angled toward his house. Adam documented the camera, noting its placement and purpose. He also installed a small device of his own to monitor activity and record data. He was careful, discreet, and methodical. As he reviewed the footage that evening, Adam discovered that board members had been recording and tracking him more closely than he realized. It was a reminder that the HOA's authority was persistent and intrusive. But Adam did not panic. He had expected this, and he had prepared. Every observation became data, and every action could be countered with strategy. Weeks passed. Adam's careful planning, research, and alliances began to yield results. The HOA's attempts to intimidate him were slowed, delayed, and sometimes invalidated by procedural errors he had documented. He presented his findings at meetings, quietly but firmly, ensuring that fairness and logic prevailed over fear and authority. Through it all, Adam remained calm, patient, and focused. He knew that winning was not about confrontation, but about intelligence, perseverance, and moral strength. He had turned a moment of fear into an opportunity for preparation and empowerment. By the end of Part 2, Adam had transformed from a worried father into a calculated strategist. He had allies, knowledge, and a clear path forward. The HOA had underestimated him, and they were beginning to see that persistence, fairness, and intelligence could not be ignored. Adam looked at Leo one evening, watching him draw another spaceship, and felt a deep sense of pride. His son's laughter, imagination, and trust were his motivation. He was ready for whatever came next, confident that with careful planning and determination, he could face any challenge and protect the future of their family. The battle for fairness, strategy, and human ingenuity had only just begun. But Adam was no longer afraid. He had discovered the strength within himself, and it was stronger than any rule, any fine, or any authority. Morning arrived with soft sunlight spilling over Silver Pines. The neighborhood was quiet, peaceful. But for Adam, the day was full of strategy and planning. He had spent weeks gathering information, building alliances, and documenting every HOA action. Now it was time to take the next step, not just defending himself, but showing the HOA and the community that fairness and intelligence mattered more than intimidation. Adam began his day with a careful review of the HOA's upcoming meeting agenda. There were several items that concerned rules, fines, and enforcement procedures. Adam noticed inconsistencies in the way certain fines had been applied, and some points that lacked proper documentation. He organized his notes in a way that would be clear and undeniable to anyone reviewing them. After breakfast, Leo ran outside to play with friends. Adam watched him for a moment, feeling a mix of love and determination. Every move he made, every strategy he planned, was for Leo's safety and future. His son's laughter gave him strength, reminding him that the stakes were higher than any fine or notice. Adam left the house and visited several neighbors quietly. Some were hesitant, fearing retaliation from the HOA, but others had experienced similar issues and were willing to support him. Adam spoke calmly and clearly, explaining that the goal was fairness, transparency, and protecting families. Slowly, a small group began to form, united not by anger, but by logic and reason. By late morning, Adam had returned home and reviewed the HOA's digital records again. He had discovered a pattern. Many of the fines were applied without following proper notification procedures. Some notices were missing dates, signatures, or proof of delivery. Adam realized that this information could not only protect him, but also help others in the neighborhood who had been treated unfairly. He created a simple but thorough presentation, using charts, timelines, and copies of official documents. The presentation was clear, factual, and unemotional. Adam knew that logic and clarity were his strongest weapons. When the afternoon HOA meeting began, Adam arrived with his folder and a small digital projector. He was calm, professional, and organized. Veronica and the board members noticed immediately. There was a slight tension in the room as he set up his materials. "Good afternoon," Adam said, addressing the board. "I would like to present my findings regarding the fines and enforcement procedures. My goal is to ensure that all actions follow the proper rules and regulations, not only for my case, but for the entire community." He began with a timeline of fines, showing exactly when notices were sent, received, or missing. He highlighted the procedural mistakes and supported each point with evidence from official HOA records. The board members whispered among themselves, their confidence slightly shaken. Next, Adam continued, "I have documented similar procedural errors affecting other residents. Fairness requires that these mistakes be addressed and rules be applied correctly. I hope we can find a solution that benefits the entire neighborhood." He presented clear suggestions for corrective action: review all fines, correct procedural mistakes, and establish a transparent system for future enforcement. His tone was calm and respectful, but firm. Mrs. Harlow, seated quietly in the back, nodded approvingly. A few other residents, who had been invited, whispered in agreement. The room began to shift. The HOA had been used to unquestioning compliance, but Adam's evidence and clarity made that impossible. Veronica cleared her throat. "Adam, your presentation is thorough. We will review these points and take appropriate action. However, the rules must still be respected." Adam smiled slightly. "Absolutely. My goal is not to challenge authority, but to ensure that authority is exercised correctly and fairly." Over the next week, Adam worked closely with his small network of neighbors. They shared experiences, collected documents, and organized information about fines, notices, and HOA procedures. The community began to see the value of knowledge, preparation, and collaboration. Many residents who had been quiet or fearful began to speak up, asking questions and demanding fair treatment. Adam also reached out to a local legal advisor who specialized in community regulations. The advisor reviewed his documents and confirmed that the procedural mistakes he had discovered were significant. Adam now had professional guidance to reinforce his position, making it nearly impossible for the HOA to act unfairly without consequences. Meanwhile, Adam made sure that Leah's life remained normal and joyful. They spent afternoons building model spaceships, reading stories, and exploring the small parks near their home. Adam knew that his son's well-being depended not only on protection, but on stability and happiness. As Part 3 progressed, Adam's efforts began to show results. The HOA tried to continue its usual enforcement, but every action was met with careful scrutiny. Adam and his allies documented each step, creating a transparent record that could not be ignored. The board members began to realize that their authority was being challenged not through anger or conflict, but through intelligence, preparation, and community collaboration. One evening, Adam received an unexpected email from Veronica. She requested a private meeting to discuss his findings and the concerns of other residents. Adam saw this as an opportunity to solidify progress and negotiate a fair resolution. At the meeting, Veronica was professional but cautious. "Adam, your documentation is impressive. I can see that many procedures were not followed correctly. We want to correct these issues, but we must also maintain order in the community. Adam nodded. I understand. My goal is fairness and transparency. I want to ensure that rules protect everyone equally, not just a few. I hope we can work together to achieve that. Veronica paused, then said, Very well. We will review all fines, correct procedural errors, and establish a more transparent system. However, this will require cooperation from you and other residents. Adam agreed, knowing that collaboration was key. By demonstrating logic, patience, and fairness, he had turned a dangerous situation into an opportunity for positive change. As the days passed, Adam's influence grew quietly but steadily. Neighbors began to take notice, some sharing their own stories and supporting the need for fairness. The community, once fearful of the HOA, began to realize that knowledge, preparation, and collaboration could balance power. Leo continued to thrive. He attended school, played with friends, and shared stories of imaginary worlds with his father. Adam often reminded himself that protecting his son meant more than winning battles. It meant nurturing hope, creativity, and resilience. By the end of Part 3, Adam had transformed the situation completely. What had begun as a threat from an overreaching authority had become a test of intelligence, strategy, and human spirit. Adam had turned fear into preparation, confusion into clarity, and isolation into community. He looked out at the neighborhood from his porch one evening, feeling a quiet satisfaction. The streets were still, the sun was setting, and for the first time, Adam felt that the future was within his control. The battle was far from over, but he now had allies, knowledge, and a clear path forward. He smiled down at Leo, who ran up to him with a drawing of a spaceship exploring a distant galaxy. Adam lifted him onto his shoulder, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also the strength of love and determination. Together, they were ready for the challenges ahead. The HOA had underestimated Adam, but he had shown that intelligence, strategy, and human perseverance could create fairness where there was once fear. The community began to understand that power was not absolute, and that courage combined with knowledge could change the rules of the game. And so, Adam's journey continued. Each day brought new challenges, but also new opportunities. He was no longer just a father defending his son. He was a strategist, a leader, and a symbol of fairness in a world that had been ruled by unchecked authority. The morning sun filtered through the trees of silver pines, casting long shadows over the quiet streets. Adam stood by the window, sipping his coffee, his mind focused on the day ahead. The last few weeks had been a test of patience, intelligence, and careful planning. Now, the HOA was beginning to feel the weight of scrutiny, and Adam knew it was time to secure a long-term solution. He turned his attention to his small team of allies, neighbors who shared his commitment to fairness and transparency. Over the past weeks, they had gathered evidence, documented procedural errors, and shared their experiences. Adam knew that the HOA's power relied on secrecy and compliance. If residents became informed and organized, that power could be balanced. Adam began the day by reviewing his notes and finalizing a plan to present a formal proposal to the HOA. The goal was clear: establish rules that would guarantee fairness for all residents and prevent any future misuse of authority. He carefully outlined every detail, from notification procedures to dispute resolution processes. The proposal was precise, logical, and supported by documentation. After breakfast, Adam met with a few key neighbors at the community center. They worked together to organize a presentation that was clear and persuasive. Each person had a role. Some would present evidence, others would speak about their experiences, and Adam would explain the procedural improvements and the benefits for the community. The focus was on collaboration, fairness, and the long-term well-being of Silver Pines. Leo watched his father prepare, fascinated by the papers and charts spread across the table. "Dad, are you going to fix the neighborhood?" he asked, his eyes wide with curiosity. Adam smiled. "Not fix, buddy. I'm helping everyone follow the rules so things are fair for everyone. That way, our community can be strong and safe." Leo nodded, satisfied with the answer. and returned to his model spaceship. Adam felt a surge of pride. Protecting his son was about more than defense. It was about creating a world where fairness and knowledge mattered. That evening, the HOA held a special meeting to address the ongoing concerns. Adam arrived with his team, carrying folders, charts, and documents. Veronica and the board members noticed immediately. Their confident demeanor was now tinged with caution. Adam's careful preparation had made them aware that the residents were organized and informed. "Good evening," Adam began. "I am here today not just for my own case, but to ensure that our community operates fairly and transparently. Over the past weeks, we have gathered information, documented procedures, and reviewed past actions. Our goal is to establish a system that protects all residents and ensures that rules are followed correctly." He began his presentation, moving through the timeline of fines, notifications, and procedural requirements. Every point was supported with clear evidence, showing where the HOA had made mistakes or overlooked important steps. The room was quiet, the board members listening intently. Next, Adam introduced his neighbors. Each shared experiences where fines had been applied unfairly or without proper notice. Their voices were calm but firm, highlighting the need for rules that were consistent and transparent. Veronica listened, her expression neutral, but her eyes revealing the weight of the situation. Finally, Adam presented the proposed improvements. He outlined a new system for notifications, timelines for dispute resolution, and checks to ensure all fines were applied fairly. He emphasized collaboration between residents and the board, showing that a community could thrive when rules were clear, fair, and enforced correctly. "This proposal is not about conflict," Adam said. "It is about fairness, transparency, and trust. If we follow these guidelines, everyone benefits. Residents feel safe and respected, and the board maintains authority while ensuring that it is exercised properly." A hush fell over the room. The board members exchanged glances, realizing that Adam's approach was not combative, but structured and logical. They could argue against emotion, but facts and proper procedures were difficult to challenge. Veronica finally spoke. "Adam, your proposal is thorough. We will review the points you have made, and we will consider implementing changes to ensure fairness. Your efforts are noted, and your approach is appreciated." Adam nodded. "Thank you, Veronica. My goal is the well-being of the community and the protection of all families, including my own." Over the next few days, Adam worked closely with the HOA to implement some of the proposed changes. They updated notification systems, clarified procedural steps, and ensured that all fines and enforcement actions were properly documented. Residents began to notice the difference. There was more transparency, more communication, and a growing sense of fairness. Adam also continued to strengthen his community network. They held informal meetings to discuss neighborhood issues, share knowledge, and support one another. The community began to feel empowered. People who had once feared the HOA now understood that knowledge and preparation gave them strength. Leo continued his daily routines, playing outside, going to school, and exploring new ideas with his father. Adam often reminded himself that these moments of normalcy were just as important as the strategic work he was doing. Protecting his son meant nurturing a stable, joyful environment while also ensuring long-term security. One afternoon, Adam received a call from a neighbor who had discovered a potential error in a recent fine. Adam reviewed the information and confirmed that a correction was needed. He worked with the HOA to ensure that the fine was adjusted and that the proper procedures were followed. Each successful correction reinforced the importance of transparency and fairness. As the weeks passed, Adam's efforts began to reshape the neighborhood. The HOA's authority was no longer unchecked. It was guided by rules, oversight, and informed residents. People began to participate more actively in community meetings, asking questions, reviewing documents, and contributing to solutions. The culture of fear and intimidation was replaced with collaboration and accountability. Adam felt a quiet satisfaction as he walked home one evening, Leo holding his hand and talking excitedly about a new spaceship design. He realized that the journey had been about more than fines or disputes. It had been about demonstrating the power of intelligence, preparation, and collaboration. Human determination and careful planning could create fairness and justice in any system. At home, Adam reviewed the final version of the community proposal. It included clear procedures, transparent enforcement, and a framework for collaboration between residents and the HOA. It was a model for fairness, designed to prevent future conflicts and ensure that families were protected. Leo ran up to him with a drawing of a distant planet, full of colorful landscapes and strange creatures. Adam looked at it and smiled. The universe of imagination, exploration, and creativity that Leo inhabited was a reflection of the world Adam was creating here. Where rules were fair, communities were strong, and children could grow safely. By the end of Part 4, Adam had achieved a remarkable transformation. What had started as a personal fight to protect his son had become a movement for fairness and transparency in the entire community. The HOA had learned that knowledge, preparation, and collaboration could balance authority, and the residents had discovered the power of working together. Adam stood on the porch that evening, watching the sunset over Silver Pines. The streets were calm, the neighborhood bathed in warm light, and for the first time, he felt that the future was truly in his hands. The immediate threat had been addressed, but the work of maintaining fairness and community engagement would continue. Adam was ready for the challenges ahead, confident that intelligence, strategy, and human perseverance could overcome any obstacle. He looked down at Leo, who waved excitedly from the garden. Adam lifted him onto his shoulders, feeling the bond of trust, love, and determination. Together, they had turned fear into opportunity, isolation into collaboration, and danger into a lesson of courage and strategy. The sun disappeared behind the trees, leaving a golden glow over the neighborhood. Adam knew that life would bring new challenges, but he also knew that with knowledge, preparation, and determination, there was no problem too great to face. In the quiet of the evening, Adam reflected on what had been achieved. The HOA was no longer a source of fear, but a system that could be held accountable. The community was engaged, informed, and empowered. And most importantly, Leo was safe, happy, and growing in a world that valued fairness and intelligence. Adam's journey had been long and challenging, but he had learned something essential. True strength was not in anger or confrontation, but in patience, knowledge, and the courage to act wisely. The neighborhood of Silver Pines had changed, and Adam had proven that human perseverance and collaboration could create lasting positive change. And so, Part 4 concluded with a neighborhood transformed, a father prepared for the future, and a son thriving in a safe and joyful world. The story of Adam and Leo was a testament to the power of intelligence, strategy, and the enduring strength of human spirit. The morning in Silver Pines was cool and calm. Birds sang in the trees, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. Adam stood on the porch, watching Leo run across the yard, his laughter carrying through the neighborhood. Weeks of careful planning, strategy, and community collaboration had led to this moment. The HOA's authority had been balanced, transparency established, and fairness restored. But Adam knew that lasting change required vigilance, patience, and the continued engagement of the residents. Adam began the day by reviewing the latest updates from the HOA. The board had agreed to implement the new procedures he had proposed, and documentation had been updated to ensure that every notice, fine, and action would follow proper rules. He carefully checked each step, making sure no detail was overlooked. Accuracy mattered. Later that morning, Adam met with his group of allies at the community center. The small team had grown as more neighbors joined after seeing the benefits of fairness and transparency. They discussed ongoing concerns, upcoming community projects, and ways to support each other. Adam encouraged everyone to participate actively, reinforcing the idea that a strong community could prevent abuse of authority. Knowledge is our power, Adam said, addressing the group. The more we understand the rules, the more we can ensure that everyone is treated fairly. This is not about conflict. It is about building a neighborhood where families feel safe and respected. The neighbors nodded, inspired by his words. They were no longer passive residents. They were engaged, informed, and empowered. Meanwhile, Leo continued his daily adventures. He played with friends, explored the small parks, and shared imaginative stories about distant planets and brave explorers. Adam made sure to spend time with him every day, nurturing creativity, joy, and confidence. He understood that protecting his son meant more than defending against authority. It meant building a life filled with learning, fun, and hope. One afternoon, Adam organized a community meeting to finalize the improvements in the HOA system. Residents came with questions, suggestions, and experiences to share. The atmosphere was positive and collaborative, a sharp contrast to the fear and intimidation that had dominated the neighborhood before. Adam began the meeting with a summary of progress. We have established clear procedures for notices and fines. The HOA has agreed to review all actions according to the rules. We have a system for resolving disputes fairly, and all residents now have access to records and documentation. Our community is stronger because we are informed and united. Residents applauded quietly, grateful for Adam's leadership and persistence. Several spoke about their experiences, expressing relief that fairness had been restored and that they could participate in decisions affecting the neighborhood. Veronica, the HOA president, addressed the group next. Her tone was more open than before. We recognize the value of transparency and collaboration. We will continue to follow the new procedures, and we thank all residents for their constructive involvement. Adam's efforts have helped us improve the community, and we are committed to maintaining these standards. Adam nodded, satisfied with the progress. Our goal is to create a neighborhood where families feel safe, where rules are followed correctly, and where everyone has a voice. This is not the end. It is a beginning, and together, we will ensure that fairness continues for all. After the meeting, Adam returned home with Leo. They walked through the yard, talking about the changes in the neighborhood. Leo was excited, asking questions about the meetings and the people he had seen. Dad, are the rules really fair now? Leo asked, looking up at him. Yes, buddy, Adam replied. We work together to make sure everyone is treated fairly, and we will keep checking to make sure it stays that way. Leo smiled, running ahead to play with his friends. Adam watched him, feeling a deep sense of pride. The journey had been challenging, but the lessons he had learned were invaluable. Courage, intelligence, and persistence could change even a system that seemed impossible to challenge. Over the next few days, Adam continued to monitor the HOA's actions, making small adjustments and offering guidance when needed. He also encouraged neighbors to participate in committees, share information, and support each other. The community was no longer divided. It was united, aware, and proactive. One evening, Adam reflected on the journey from the first threatening letter to this moment of stability. He remembered the fear he had felt, the uncertainty, and the countless hours of research and planning. But he also remembered the support of Mrs. Harlow, the neighbors who had joined him, and the determination that had driven him to act wisely and patiently. He realized that the story of Silver Pines was not just about rules or fines. It was about the human capacity to face challenges with intelligence, courage, and collaboration. It was about the power of knowledge and preparation, and the strength of community when individuals work together for a common purpose. Leo came running into the room, holding a new drawing. Dad, look, this spaceship can travel to a planet where everyone is happy and safe. Adam looked at the drawing and smiled. It was full of color, creativity, and hope. He felt a strong sense of accomplishment. Not only had he protected his son from immediate danger, but he had also helped build a neighborhood where children could thrive and families could feel secure. That night, Adam and Leo sat together on the porch, watching the stars appear in the sky. Leo pointed at a cluster of stars. Dad, do you think people can live on that planet? Adam laughed softly. Maybe, buddy, and if they do, they'll need rules that are fair and people who work together to make the world a good place. Leo smiled, resting his head on his father's shoulder. Adam felt a quiet sense of peace. The journey had tested him, but it had also strengthened him. He had learned the value of patience, strategy, and collaboration. He had shown that fear could be met with intelligence, and that love could be a guiding force in every action. In the days that followed, the neighborhood of Silver Pines continued to flourish. Residents participated in meetings, offered suggestions, and supported each other. The HOA operated more transparently, with clear rules and fair enforcement. Conflicts were resolved calmly and logically, and families felt safe and respected. Adam continued to guide the community, not as a leader seeking power, but as someone dedicated to fairness, knowledge, and collaboration. He mentored other residents, taught them how to review records, and encouraged them to participate actively. The community had transformed into a model of cooperation and accountability. Leo grew up in this environment, learning the value of fairness, the importance of rules, and the power of intelligence combined with kindness. He played, explored, and imagined, supported by a father who had shown him that challenges could be faced without anger, that solutions could be found through preparation and patience, and that love could guide every decision. Years later, Adam looked back on the events that had begun with a threatening letter and an unfair fine. What had seemed like a personal threat had become a lesson for the entire community. By facing the challenge wisely, involving others, and maintaining patience and clarity, he had created a lasting positive change. Silver Pines had become a neighborhood where families thrived, where children were safe, and where residents understood that knowledge, collaboration, and fairness were more powerful than fear or intimidation. Adam had shown that human determination, intelligence, and courage could transform any system. As he sat with Leo one evening, watching the sunset, Adam felt a sense of fulfillment. The journey had been long, the challenges real, but the outcome was worth every effort. The neighborhood, his son, and the community were safe. Fairness had been restored, and hope had been strengthened. Adam smiled, watching Leo run to meet his friends. He knew that life would continue to bring challenges, but he was ready. With intelligence, preparation, and love, any problem could be faced and any obstacle overcome. The story of Adam and Leo ended not with conflict or revenge, but with victory through strategy, courage, and human spirit. They had turned fear into opportunity, isolation into collaboration, and challenge into triumph. The stars appeared in the sky, shining bright over Silver Pines. Adam felt that same brilliance inside him, a strength that came from love, perseverance, and the unwavering belief that humans could face any challenge wisely and fairly. And so, the community thrived, the father and son flourished, and the lesson was clear: with intelligence, patience, and determination, fairness and hope could prevail in any situation.